Khamzat Chimaev is unstoppable, and therefore his UFC title reign is inevitable.
Overreaction. I think
Ooh.
we've seen flaws from him. We've seen when things don't go well for him in the first, if he doesn't get it done in the first round, the second round, that there have been issues with his cardio. I mean, the Gilbert Burns fight and the Usman fight, he seemed to be slowing pretty significantly as the fight went on. So if he can get somebody that can, it's a big if, but if he can get if somebody against him can prevent that mauling in the first round that we saw, with Whittaker have to go through, I'm very intrigued to see what will come from that. I mean, can he keep up that pace? Has it been injuries? Has it been health issues that made him not necessarily look maybe up to people's standards in that Burns and in the Usman fight? I don't know. I think we need a bigger sample size to tell. But I do have my concerns with this gas tank just from what we have seen.
Let me tell you, watching that fight, you could sort of see the energy kind of being sucked out of Rob. I feel like that's what happens in these fights with Chimaev when it goes to form the way this one did, right? When he gets that early takedown and he's on you and he's smothering you and he's relentless. And you just sort of feel like, like the energy, the mental energy is sapped out of his opponent. That's what seemed like happened to Rob. And if I'm looking at these rankings, if I'm looking at what's happening here, would you have really what we're talking about here at the end of the day is what Dricus du Plessis as champion right now and Sean Strickland. I mean, those guys to me don't exactly have the footwork to really match up well with Chimaev to be able to fend off his takedowns. I could be wrong, but I mean, if those two guys fight next for the title and he faces one of those two guys, to me, I feel like I'm taking Chimaev in that matchup. But I'm wrong.
No, I agree with that. I think that he will be, right now in the division, there's really good stylistic matchups for him. I mean, we saw Rob even take down Dricus fairly easily when those two fought, way back when, or not that far back when, but
yeah. And Strickland's just going to stand in front of you flat footed. I mean, I just don't, I don't, if he were to win that fight against Dricus, I don't see it.
Yeah. I mean, at this point in time, I don't feel comfortable picking any Dricus fights at all. Like, I don't think I've picked one single one right. I always pick against him and he wins. So this would be like the next. This is the perfect matchup to suck me in to pick against him again and then have him win again. The guy doesn't make sense. I'm very intrigued by that fight. Again, I hope that they go with Dricus versus Khamzat next. I know Dana had already kind of publicly said that it would probably be Sean and walked that back a little bit on Saturday with his comments saying it was not really sure and it was a toss-up or whatever. So I love the fight. I probably would lean with Khamzat, but I am so bad at Dricus just has my number, man. I think he has everybody's number at this point.
He does. He surprised me in the Adesanya fight. But like I said, I just feel like Chimaev, I feel, and this may sound corny to some extent, but there's a mental warfare that goes on in these, in the buildup to these fights. At this point, I really do feel like Chimaev he really is viewed as the boogeyman. Like if there was ever a boogeyman label for somebody, it's him. And it's the way he fights, man. It's the way he just comes out, is going to impose his will on you. He's going to smother you. It's going to make you tired, physically, mentally as the fight wears on. And I was just so surprised to see that from Rob. You could just tell every time he was like, I'm about to get up. No, I'm being dragged back. I'm dragged back down. I'm about to get up. I'm dragged back. Dude, that shit is just so, I can only imagine how frustrating that is. And, to me, it's unstoppable, dude. And the title reign is inevitable for Chimaev.
Yeah. I mean, he looked fantastic at 185 too. I think that's a big part of it. Who knows what those weight cuts to 170 were doing to him. And I mean, that performance on Saturday, like you said, the boogeyman thing is so accurate. I mean, when he came in those first few fights, he had this real presence about him. I mean, he was a huge breakthrough star. And then I think through those fights, like the ones I named, the Burns and the Usman fights, I think he kind of lost a little bit of that where people were questioning him. Is he not as good? And then he wasn't fighting too. So he was just hanging out in this narrative of like the last time we saw him, he wasn't as good as we thought he was going to be. But I think that thing on Saturday, he re-railed himself onto that trajectory that we thought of like, this dude is scary.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, just considering who he did it to, the way he did it. So, I think that there will be I think he'll be champion. I'm not sure that it will depend on what kind of matchups come out of the woodworks. But to me, the one that screams at me is the Bo Nickel one. I think that if Bo continues to build 2 or 3 fights, like if Khamzat's holding gold at that point, I think that's a fight we'll be talking about in a mega way if the stars ever align there.
Yeah, that would be amazing. But that's probably a good 18 months away, maybe.
Yeah,
something like that, 2 years. So, but before that, Chimaev's going to be champion, dude. It's going to happen.
MMA Junkie AI.